Welcome back. We managed to get Hans to the monastery, but the patriarch seems unwilling to really help. But Hans says there is an old monk here that he knows, Brother Alexei, who knows Yukol medicine. Yukol are native people around here, I believe. So, might as well give that a try. We can look at this table, apparently.
Cheese and dry bread. Yummy.
Okay, clearly we can put something on this table at some point. Would you like a candle?
I need something else to activate it.
To activate it? We want to activate the table. Sure. That makes sense. Or do we activate the candle? In which case I would use the word light. Oh. We were being eavesdropped on. We saw that.
You like to eavesdrop.
Eavesdrop? No, I clean and clean, that's all.
A likely story.
I've just spoken to Hans.
And what news do you bring, my sister?
He spoke to me of one of your brothers, named Alexei.
Ah, tempus edax rerum. Brother Alexei is not of this world, my sister.
That's gonna make it pretty hard to find him.
So you don't know this Alexei, do you?
No, no. Omnis homo mendax.
Come on, you must know where Alexei is.
Mors ultima ratio.
Okay, he just walked off. I had other things I wanted to talk about, but I guess we can't now, unless we find him somewhere else. Sister, Alexei was a man of God and my friend. He lived away from the monastery for many years among the strange Yukol people. Can we read that without this stained glass mammoth in the way? I think we can. There we go. Yukol people and their stories of the great mammoths of old that were divine to them. I am no wise monk, far from it, but I have prayed to God long enough to understand that he takes many different forms in the imaginations of men. This might help you. The key is in the light of the mammoth's eye. Okay. There is no light in the mammoth's eye. We may be able to find that somewhere, though. Hey, at least he's actually helping. We're the only people here. And apparently he left a brush here, which we can take. These are all still the very, very silent monks. Wonder where we are meant to use that. Is this the main entrance that we went through before? It very clearly is not. Okay. Looks like we can go either up or down. And there is nothing we can do up here, from as far as I can tell. go down then. Don't tell me we're gonna carry that around with us. Oh, you can light candles with it. Alright. Can I unlight them? Somehow, yes. Well, there's probably a puzzle here. I doubt it's just a matter of lighting all of them. I don't really know what to do with that yet, so let's move on. We can't really look at any of these desks, can we? No. Alright, I guess we'll come back here later. What's over here? A tree, but... Oh, it's a cemetery. Not the first one we visited in the Syberia games. I sincerely hope there will not be any grave digging involved. Oh, I can look at a grave.
What on earth is that?
Can we clean that? No, we cannot. Seems to be Alexei's grave. My Greek alphabet is working. He died in 1996, apparently. He was 101 years old, though. I have a feeling we have to clear this somehow, because it's possible. Like, there's an icon over it. So I doubt Kate is going to realize what she's looking at without that.
Whiling away those celibate hours.
Yeah, that's an appropriate thing to say to somebody who's digging a grave.
This casket gives me the creeps.
There's a giant hole in the wall here for some reason.
It's kind of steep. But with the sled, I could slide down the slope.
With the... what sled? There's a sled now? Okay. Sure. Doesn't seem relevant right now. Wait, are they digging a grave for Hans because they think he's gonna die? Somehow that would not surprise me. Have we been down this way? Is that where we started? I think, yeah, that is where we started. Anything on the wheelbarrow yet? Oh, yeah. Shears. Okay. I honestly didn't remember that was there now. Which is why it's always a good thing to go back and check. I have a feeling I know what the shears are for. And I'm right. Alexei Tukianov, quo sanctus libri abscondo mei scientia. My Latin is not good enough to translate that. Something with science, or knowledge anyway. We could probably ask the... Oh. Herbs and brambles. Okay. Guess we needed those. I think this is shorter. Where else can we go? Let's check the main building again, I suppose.
There's nothing can be done.
It's a bit fatalistic. Is Patriarch still there? Yes.
Hello, Father.
Hello, my child.
You really can't do anything for Hans?
His destiny is not in mortal hands. We must pray, dear girl. Pray for his redemption.
But Hans has no reason to repent.
His fever-driven outpourings are not those of a holy man. Oh, far from it.
Why does that matter? Just help him already.
Hans Vorarlberg is not a sinner.
The pagan fantasies with which he sullies the air in his delirium are those of a heretic. Pray, female, pray to save your friend from the sizzling fires of hell.
You're a total crackpot. You're a fanatic. I will talk to Hans. You hear? I talked to Hans.
Yes.
He seems better.
It is but an illusion, my girl. His mortality is teetering on the brink. I know about these things.
He told me about a monk who could help him.
And what monk might that be, Miss Walker?
A monk who has spent long years with the Yukols, that mysterious tribe from the far north.
Your friend is clearly very sick, my poor child.
Sorry, the whole... I will talk to Hans. I talk to Hans. That was just really funny to me. For some reason.
Father, do you know a man named Alexei Tukianov?
He was a heretic and charlatan. He is not worth the breath, my girl.
It seems Hans Vorarlberg considers him highly.
Your friend must have lost his marbles.
But could I just meet the man anyway?
No. Alexei Tukianov has left us. A long time ago, Miss Walker.
Yeah, we literally just saw his grave, so...
Excuse my insistence, Father, but where might I be able to find Alexei Tukianov? It's very important.
Alexei Tukianov is dead, my girl. May his soul rest in peace. May his soul rest in peace!
Yeah, I thought that was kind of obvious. Kate wasn't really getting the message, I suppose.
We absolutely must continue our journey. We must.
Don't even think about it, child. Mr. Vorarlberg is in no fit state.
Hans Vorarlberg is going to see his dream come true. You hear me?
Wretched girl. His dreams are almost at an end and there is nothing you can do.
Hans often told me about the mysterious people of the far north, the Yukols.
They are degenerate heathen savages that worship idols and false gods and resist the redemption of the Lord.
Hans lived among them for a long time. They're like a second family to him.
Please, dear girl, do not let yourself succumb to the quaint temptations of those pagans. Their only ambition is to wallow in their so-called primitive paradise, and all its lechery and bestiality. Remember that those who live far from God doom themselves to eternal chastisement.
Okay, I think I've heard all I need. I'm off.
Go, my child. But weigh the consequences of your actions well.
Yeah, that's about how I would react to this guy. What else was here? These things, I suppose.
This is really amazing work all the same.
What can we do with that? Brush? Apparently we can brush it. It's really amazing work that we've just destroyed. It shows a cross with a bunch of symbols around it, or dots around it, some of which are black and some of which are white. Maybe something to do with those candles we saw? Maybe we need to light those candles. The ones that are in white here. I don't know.
Whiling away those celibate hours.
Guess we can try the same thing on this side? No, that's not an option. No brushing this side. Or shearing it. Or herbing it. But it's something to try, at least. I think that this would be where the matches that we found earlier would come in, but apparently not. Okay. We saw the cross as a reference in the image. So yeah, I definitely think that that is related here. So we want to light the one that's above the cross, which by sheer coincidence I think is the one I lit earlier. Then it's this one. And this one. And this one. And finally this one. Okay, that did something. Can't say that I know exactly what, but it did something. Further up here, where before there was nothing we could do. Yeah, looks like this opened up. Neat. See the train? Well, there's definitely light here, so... Okay. That did nothing. What are we meant to be doing here? Oh, wait. The light... Oh, it closed. I guess we need to change the size. How does this work, though? You have to push 4 of them. Hey! Alright, that seems to focus the light. We can now see the... mammoth, and its eye is right there. Oh. Okay. Why did the light disappear now? I don't know. Bunch of stuff here. None of which we seem to be interested in, except for this. Alexei Tukyanov, Notes and Sketches from the Frozen North. A diary to read. Always fun. How long is this? Somewhat long. I think we can still do it, though. April 15th, 1947. I loaded my bags and provisions onto a sled pulled by several sturdy, healthy beasts, and left the Romansburg monastery, heading northwards in search of the mysterious peoples inhabiting the vast, desolate wastes of the Siberian tundra. Hey, okay, so Syberia with an I does exist. So why do people not just assume that's what we mean when we say Syberia, without clarifying we're talking about a mythical island where mammoths live? My superiors had conferred on me the missions of evangelizing those pagan tribes from their heathen shamanic beliefs. I traveled under an assumed identity, that of a lowly trapper. I had to be wary of the agents of the state and of the military, for whom any religious activity is suspect. They, for their part, traveled the length and breadth of eastern Siberia, trying to convince the villagers of the debatable benefits of collectivism. It took me several weeks to accustom myself to the unfamiliar harness. I found no dogs in Romansburg and had to make do with yukis, purchased from a hunter. The yuki is related to both seals and dogs. Is that possible? I don't know. I am not up on taxonomy enough to know what the relation between a seal and a dog is. In the wild, the yuki lives on riverbanks. It is an easy capture for the trapper as its gluttony is well documented. In winter, it gorges itself on orange salmon, a prey that it often has to share in the wild with the fierce Siberian bear, another creature very partial to the fish. Alright. Is that like the animal we saw before in the crate? That we set free to distract the one guy in the junkyard? Yeah, it does look like that's what we saw. Cute little fella. The yuki. Once tamed, the yuki is an affectionate but whimsical animal. It resists all forms of disciplined training, and only if there are no dogs available is it used to pull sleds. Certain Arctic peoples, however, seem to have better mastered the secret of their domestication, and the Yuki is central to their daily activities. Of all the peoples who inhabit these god-forsaken regions, I found the Yukols the most fascinating. Perhaps that is why I headed for those regions where I was most likely to encounter them. Yukol religious mask. Why does that look like Oscar's face? Representing the soul messenger who guides the dying to the other world. The Yukols are fearful of him. I wonder if since Hans lived with them, did Hans give him this image? Although this was back in 1947, so I don't know. The journey was long and dangerous. It wasn't until October 27, 1947, that for the first time I made contact with the Yukols. I have spent long months living among them. I have come to know them and to understand them for who they are. I soon abandoned any notion of converting them. I applied myself instead to the study of their mores and customs, which I think is a much better use of your time. Actually, it occurs to me that maybe it's the other way around. Maybe Hans based Oscar's face on this. Soul messenger, huh? So little is known about the Yukols, less than is known of any inhabitant of the frozen north. Today they live far, far away at the farthermost tip? Is that a word? I don't know. Of the Siberian tundra. Because of their remoteness and their inhospitable climate, the Yukols have remained small in number, overlooked by the scientific community and the Soviet governmental machine. The only documents available before my departure were several drawings, notes, and photographs taken 100 years ago by a Russian explorer, Marie Bodrinov. It is to her we owe what little is of the Yukol people and its culture. The Yukols hark back to the last ice age. Curiously, traces of their presence have been found in Western Europe, more precisely in the heart of the French Alps in the prehistoric caves of Vallée-d'Alene. That's where we were. Is that what the mammoth statue is about, I suppose? That we found? This suggests that over centuries they undertook a long migration toward the extreme north of the globe. The sacred harfang. This bird is often inseparable from the Yukol shaman. It seems to be considered in turns as his friend, representative, and even as his incarnation. This Yukol shaman looks very old. Lemmings congregate on the open plains of Syberia. They feed on grains and small fruit that they store in their holes to face the scarcity of the winter months ahead. Lemmings dig deep tunnels in the ice to escape their predators. The hunters they most fear are harfangs, who seem to find lemmings something of a delicacy. It's not a happy bird. On several occasions during my journey, I encountered traces of Yukol society far to the west of the areas we know today. Along forest trails, I discovered small piles of carefully piled stones, altars on which Yukol hunters made ritual offerings to one of their pagan gods. Kind of like a cairn, I think that's called. We now know the reason for the Yukol's long migration. Their domestic economy was, it seems, directly linked to the mammoth. They used the mammoth for both transport and as beasts of burden, for meat, skin, fat, and ivory. It is beyond doubt that we are dealing with a genuine case of symbiosis between man and animal. Mammoths were forced north by changing climatic conditions, and the Yukols followed. Some prehistoric cave drawings, identified as being of Yukol origin, have led the scientific community to conjecture that at one time the Yukols realized the incredible achievement of domesticating mammoths. They are, to our knowledge, the only prehistoric people to have represented a man astride a mammoth. Yet that's not something you see very often. Yukol life was thus intimately linked to that of their pachyderms. They used their hides for clothing and to build roofs, walls, and houses. They used their tusks to construct the frameworks of their dwellings and for weapons, tools, and jewelry. Curiously, the disappearance of the mammoth 12,000 years ago had no immediate impact on the Yukol's way of life. It seems that they were able to retain the strong link that tied them to mammoths throughout the millennia. As incredible as it might seem, Yukol still feed on mammoth meat today, and use mammoth hide for clothing and to roof their dwellings. Their craftsmanship of mammoth ivory is altogether remarkable. After 12,000 years, and nobody thinks that might mean that they're still mammoths alive somewhere. Unless they found some really impressive ways of preserving meat. It appears that the Yukols have managed to retain their ancestral habits by using over the years the many frozen mammoth bodies that are perfectly preserved in the frozen Siberian wastes. I guess so? Would that be edible? They are said to have lived off this enormous pantry for more than 30 centuries. To do this, they have hollowed out a vast network of caves in the frozen ground. According to the intrepid explorer Marie Bodrinov, Yukol civilization has now gone underground. Specialists in the paleontology department at St. Petersburg have never credited Yukol myths and legends. However, the legend of the Siberian ice arc is typical of such folklore. It has long been considered a fable told by a shaman in the evening to ward off the boredom of the long Siberian winter months. The legend tells that somewhere on a lost island to the north of the tundra, there still exist live mammoths, relics of the long-gone ice age, a tiny population that has been preserved for more than 12 centuries under Yukol care. The island the pachyderms inhabit is called Syberia, with a Y, because otherwise it'd be too confusing, I guess. To my notes, I add the tale of this legend, as Marie Bodrinov related it in her memoirs. It agrees on all points with statements from Yukols I had the fortune to meet. Although this story constitutes no proof of the existence of the island of Syberia, it forms a tantalizing hypothesis. Scarlet bramble, Infernus rubus. Blue grass, Cerulean herba, fossilized plant life. When fall arrives, the odor of its flowers is so strong that it is known to awaken hibernating Yuki. Okay. They probably evolved to do that. Scarlet bramble, mixed with walrus blubber or tallow, this scarlet bramble is frequently used in Yukol medicine. The fumes released by burning it have considerable healing properties. The shamans recount that the plant only grows on the tomb of one whose soul is at peace. Is that the weeds we got from Alexei's grave? I think it is. Part of medicine, huh? We have to burn it, combined with either blubber or tallow, which is bee fat, I think. The Legend of Syberia. At the end of the last ice age, there were huge climatic changes. Much of the land was flooded by water. This sudden environmental variation put the existence of a number of animal species in danger, including the mammoths that inhabited the lands of the Siberian north at that time. The Yukols, a particularly advanced people for the age, set about the construction of an enormous ark like that of Noah, with the objective of preserving the mammoths, objects of religious devotion, from extinction. Well, doing that for one species is a hell of a lot more believable than doing it for all of them. So, I'll buy it. The enormous craft was entirely constructed of mammoth tusks and was loaded with small herd of beasts and huge quantities of fur. The fate of the ship was entrusted to several particularly courageous members of the Yukol clan. Their mission was to lead the animals towards more welcoming climes. Once such lands were discovered, it was agreed that they would unload the animals and then come back to spread the tidings of their good fortune. It wasn't until 10 years later that the ark returned to its starting place. The Yukols who had remained on the continent were surprised to find the ship empty, but for the perfectly preserved bodies of several mammoths in the ice that packed the bottom of the ship. They took this mysterious offering as a sign from the gods and ate the mammoths in a memorable feast. Okay, so a bit unclear whether or not they made it. At least some of the mammoths weren't unloaded, I suppose. A week later, carried along by ocean currents, the ark set sail again. Once more it returned 10 years later, with more frozen mammoths on board. The phenomenon continued for millennia. Every 10 years the ark would reappear, each time filled with immaculately preserved mammoths. Sounds likely. The Yukols interpreted the phenomenon as an act of benevolence on the part of the souls of their congeners who had died during the ark's first journey in some infernal maritime cataclysm. They made a religion of the Ark with its own rites and customs that was marked by the periodic appearance of the Phantom ship and its precious cargo. It's like the Flying Dutchman, but with mammoths. Weird. For centuries, nothing seemed to affect the Ark's mysterious roundabout. One day, however, the Ark returned earlier than expected and empty. This was 100 years ago. The poor Yukols fell into deep despair. Everything they had believed in and had been the foundation of their culture since the dawn of time lost meaning. The most valiant tried hard to maintain hope, especially because the Ark still continued its peregrinations into the unknown, borne away on the seasonal ocean tides. But one morning the Ark refused to set sail. Many Yukols then left their village forever, trailing their despair across the tundra. Sometimes they can be encountered in the smoke-filled drinking holes of the last outposts of civilization. These poor, sodden souls drown their befuddled minds in alcohol, recounting their unlikely mammoth tales to fellow alcoholics. When the explorer Bodrinov arrived among the Yukols, she noted the presence of what was once a ship. Only the Yukols could perceive the mythical craft of their legends beneath the layers of ice that had accumulated over centuries. She put forward the hypothesis that the accumulated ice had eventually doubled the volume of the Ark and rendered it incapable of negotiating the dangers posed by floating ice in the Arctic floe. I, Alexei Tukianov, can confirm that the observations of this audacious adventures are true. The Ark that leads to the Isle of Syberia is indeed real, and even if I have not found the formal proof, I am convinced of this isle's existence, and that remnants of a mammoth population may still live there today. Alexei Tukianov. Okay. Would have liked to have met this Alexei. He seems like the sanest person here. But he did give us a hint as to how we might cure Hans with some of the herbs we already found. So we will have to look into that in the next video.